All right, welcome to another Monday morning edition of The Drive. I am Andy Lack. That is Geoff Fienberg. Geoff, man, what a week we have in store for us this week. This tournament, I feel like, has been trending in the right direction for a number of years in terms of the strength of field. But wow, have we reached a tipping point. 22 of the 25 best players in the world will be making the trip south to Phoenix this week for the WM Phoenix Open. I would say that this is about as close to a major strength field as we could get, Jeffrey.
I have already been on record as calling it the winter major this morning, Andy. It certainly feels like a treat. The first, I think, official elevated event, and I believe a purse that almost rivals three times
$20 million. Yeah, 3.6 to the winner.
So, just off the top, we're here to give you some outrights, but a reminder, you playing those one and dones, no field to lollygag this one. You fire maybe one of your favorite bullets at an event in a prize pool like this, and the field, let's give her.
Well, I'm looking at the odds board right now, and using the oddschecker US Golf Grid, it seems like Jon Rahm and Rory McIlroy have kind of separated themselves as the two best players in the world. They are both widely found in the plus 600 to plus 900 range, and I can't really argue with the odds, Geoff. I mean, these two, in my opinion, over the last 3 to 6 months have somewhat separated themselves in a bit of a class of their own. Do you have any interest in buying in on one of those two guys at the top, or are you skipping them entirely?
I feel I am forced to skip them entirely, because their presence has created a lot of fun options. And, shout out to, with this elevated event, maybe we could see this more in this new landscape of betting. So credit where credit's due to know, like a book like DraftKings, who had odds up for this event for many weeks, and we're almost changing them consistently, including a reshuffle on the weekend. I have no interest in making one of these bets. For me, Jon Rahm would be the favorite.
Right.
He's played here a ton. We know he's the Arizona State product. He's had great success here without winning in the past. Would Rory even be here without the elevated label? Not certain of that. This feels like this would be on Jon Rahm's calendar regardless. So Jon Rahm, splitting hairs there, would definitely be the one for me.
Right. Rory has played this event one time in his career, whereas Jon Rahm has played it 7 times, never finished outside of the top 20, almost won the tournament in 2015 as an amateur when he was still playing at Arizona State. I am with you. However, these numbers are just a little bit too short for me. And what it does is it creates this giant range of, say, 11 and 12 to 1 with Xander and Scotty Scheffler, all the way up to like the mid 30s, where you have bona fide top 10 players in the world. I'm talking about Patrick Cantlay, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, Tony Finau, Tom Kim, Hideki Matsuyama. I mean, the list goes on. You could find yourself some incredible players under in that kind of range of, like I said, 12 to 40, and some really big names that can be found above 20, Geoff.
This you just reeled off a very expensive potential list for me, Andy. And I'm sure a lot of golf outright bettors. And, we've said it in different ways multiple times, but I mean, I could get essentially close to 3 names for the same price as I would bet on Jon Rahm.
Right.
And I'm not going to bet it small either. I'm not betting it small either. But, so how can I not? How can I not take a step farther back? And while Scheffler, who got his ball rolling here last year, is great, and Xander, who I believe I was on here last year and always feels like a threat around Phoenix, I'm going into those 20s for sure. It's Justin Thomas, the 24 to 1 available enhanced win at Bet365.
I'm there.
And the Colin Morikawa 25 to 1 over at DraftKings, but I'm not done now. Like, I'm staring right down the barrel at a Tony Finau also. Can I tell you, you said it feels like a major. I'm betting it like it's a major, okay? It's Super Bowl week. It'll all get lost in the shuffle after the fact. I'm hoping to cash in on awards night. No one needs to worry about me, but when I also say I'm betting it like a major, Andy, it means where we're going on this odds board. How far deep do I feel like we really need to go for win equity? When you look at past Phoenix winners, very few outliers. And we're even going back to when this thing was just like Bubba, Phil, Ricky, Hideki, and Brooks pretty much on the like heavyweights showing up here. Nothing like what it is now. So between past Phoenix winners and this current trend in golf, you're telling me we got 24 of the top 25 in the world here this week. It's getting beyond that, or even, farther down where we're getting big. So I'm betting it like a major exposure wise, and I'm betting it like a major in terms of card construction.
Well, you hit it right there for me. I mean, you touched on the 24-1 on Justin Thomas at Bet365. I'm there, man. I mean, this is a guy that I have been tracking for a while in terms of an elite player that seems like he's more due for a win than many of the other players in his price range. I mean, we're talking about a guy that between the ages of 21 and 26 years old racked up 15 wins on the PGA Tour, and now suddenly he's trended towards this interesting thing where he's only won 2 events in the last 2 years. Now, those are 2 of the 5 biggest events every year on the PGA Tour schedule, the PGA Championship and the Players Championship. But this was a guy that used to just rack up PGA Tour wins like no other. And I remember back to that week, by the way, not a crazy comp course either when we talk about TPC Sawgrass. There's been a ton of correlation over those leaderboards. But I remember when he entered that week at the Players Championship and hit that 20, and I made a remark to myself saying, anytime JT hits that 20 number and above, you can sign me up. So for me, JT's the first name on the card.
Yeah, and that was already brought up to me today. I think we've seen it 3 times in quasi-recent history, some more recent than others. There was a Bridgestone Championship where JT crossed 20, won. There was the Players you mentioned, crossed 20, won. There was the major last year where I mentioned here, the boost over at 365. We cashed it, I think it was 22 or 24, won. So I mean, JT's almost like it's a point of no return now to many of us who do this weekly for the 48-week grind. Maybe we are too deep in the forest to see through the trees, but I don't know. If a tree falls on me, whatever. I'll dust it off, eat some pizza, watch the Super Bowl.
The next guy that I'll mention, the second bet that I made this week, was the Finau at 25. And Geoff, I'm sitting here looking at a guy that's won 3 times in his last 9 starts, and I cannot understand for the life of me what Finau has to do to put himself in that category on the odds board of a Xander, of a Patrick Cantlay, of a Max Homa, because I just look at how the guy's playing right now. He rated out number 1 in my model for me, and it was just a pure number play. I thought Finau was going to be in the 16-1 ballpark this week. As soon as I saw that 25 on Tony Finau, I hit that one immediately.
Yeah, it feels very fair. I mean, it's an interesting history here, right? The 3 mixed cuts with the playoff loss to Webb. Oh, that one hurt. I've embarrassed myself in a grotesque manner in front of like my friends' wives as all these Phoenix events go to playoffs before the Super Bowl. We're not supposed to be watching these things together other than the coincidence that the cherry on top of football is happening. Par 5 scoring, bogey avoidance. I could see why, like everything about Finau, why he'd come up in the models. It's right there, even with Morikawa, who at 25-1, Andy. I mean, you look at how he could just attack a place like this with the irons. Such a fun course because we've seen our Bubbas, we've seen our Brooks like go after and take this place apart. You've also seen the shot makers come out here and attack and have just as good birdie looks. And you see how Morikawa with the Century finish, would it be the Farmers finish? He's clicking. If you've bet him, there have been disappointments, but I haven't. I feel like this could be a good time too. So many options. It could get expensive, and maybe it could be an expensive, forgetful mistake of forgetting about Patrick Cantlay this week, Andy.
Yeah, as we dive a little bit deeper, Patrick Cantlay, by the way, I just should mention, playoff loss last year in his first appearance here ever, right? So this is a course that has typically favored a pretty strong correlation between course history and success. But Patrick Cantlay shows up last year and makes the playoff on his debut performance. I mean, I've even started to see a couple 20s pop up on Patrick Cantlay. That is extremely fair to me. But as we dive a little bit deeper, Geoff, into the 30s and 40s, we're looking at names like Victor Hovland, who, we're just wrapping up Pebble Beach right now as we record, but looking like a top 15 finish for Hovland. We're looking at Cameron Young, who just finished second at the Saudi International. Maybe you've got some travel concerns there, but man, I caught a little bit of that tournament, and is he striping the ball right now? Matt Fitzpatrick, there may be some injury concerns. He did not look great at Pebble. Jordan Spieth, another somewhat disappointing performance at Pebble. And then you get into your Sam Burns's, Sahith Theegala's, Taylor Montgomery's, Shane Lowry's, Tommy Fleetwood, Tyrrell Hatton's of the world. I guess my question for you, Geoff, is how low would you go?
I mean, that's always the debate. Normally, I'm always willing to go pretty low, spend a bit down the board on some personal favorites, but I could just see myself being far too exposed by the time we cross 50 to even have words for it. Although I do have opinions. Cam Young, I was one that caught those 45s on a readjust on DraftKings on the weekend. As he was playing great in the Saudi. Am I worried about the travel? Sure, but I just couldn't resist. I was looking at a Cam Young 45 versus a Sahith Theegala 50.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Sahith, but it's like in this field versus those guys, everything has to be considered. Hideki Matsuyama, again, there's some bigger numbers out this morning between his performances this year, his propensity to always come here and play great. Has to be a guy people are thinking of. And I just love the all-around consistency of Sung J M.
Yeah.
It's like 8s across the board with him. And I trust him a lot. And the 35-1 available at DraftKings. It's hard to find fair numbers in the outright betting game. I'm not betting that Sam Burns 55. Damn, does that feel fair also, Andy?
Yeah.
But I am gonna pay that premium or maybe not pay that fair price on that Sung Jim at 35.
I'm with you. And currently that's the lowest I'm going. But I look at a guy right now who I have a fair number at 27-ish, 28, even in this field. And that's where he is across the board. There's that stray 35 on DraftKings, which I hit as well. But this is a guy who has been good at this course before, has been good at these types of courses. He won at TPC Summerlin. That is another desert TPC course where there's a great importance of keeping the ball out of the desert off the tee. He is coming off a week at Torrey Pines where he gained 7 strokes on approach. That is the best iron week of his entire career, and it only came through 3 rounds at Torrey Pines South course. So has Sung Jae potentially turned a corner with his iron play? I'm willing to bet on it. So for me, Sung Jae at 35, I'm looking at, like you said, 2 guys in that 25 zone with JT and Tony Finau, Sung Jae at 35, and then I probably have room to add just one more in the 25 to 50 range. But I just think there's far too much star power at the top, Geoff, to see any of these guys in the 50 plus range really holding the trophy at the end of the day. With that being said, is there anyone that you want to give mention to, any long shot, maybe as like a top 20 play or a DraftKings option that you think can outperform maybe their number on the betting board?
Yeah, so we'll see where the numbers do come in, but I will be tempted to maybe invest in DFS or exotic placings with Taylor Montgomery. The highest outright number I'm seeing is 60. Not there. It's just, this would be his first win, an elevated event. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see it. We're going to see one of these younger players we love who's won nothing come in and bust out one of these parties, but I'm just not there yet on the outright. But another player a little farther back who sometimes in stronger events we do like to glom on, and in this 50 to maybe 80 range, my favorite play would probably be the Canadian Corey Connors.
Mm.
Look for me to lose some money or overexpose myself to him in DFS or the proposition markets.
Okay, last guy that I got to ask you about, and then I want to talk Super Bowl for 5 minutes. Ricky Fowler, 80-1, Geoff. Playing some great golf, King of Phoenix. Can I sell you?
I love that Ricky's playing great. Like, that's awesome. But I'm not betting Ricky to get through like the total breakthrough this week. I'm just not betting it. I don't want to say I don't trust him enough, but dare I say I just don't trust him enough.
Fair enough.
Right
not
now.
In this field, right?
Yeah,
this field feels a little bit of a
it just feels
a
little too much, and I've so overexposed at the top. I'm holding on to some of those quarters, I guess, left in my pocket. Yeah, not in this field. But let me ask you, in that 50 to 80 range, a lot of fun Europeans, Lowry, Fleetwood, Norin.
I like Corey Connors as well as like a top 20 play. I'm curious to see how Pebble wraps up with Keith Mitchell. That's a guy that I've been riding a ton, and this is more of a driver course where he can kind of let loose off the tee a little bit as well. Another name that kind of just popped out to me is like, this is a guy that's actually been really damn good at this course, is a top 30 player in the world, and isn't seemingly getting any respect on the odds board, would be Billy Horschel, despite this being a course that his skill set could work on, right? So there are a couple names here that I definitely am going to be filling out some DraftKings lineups with, but no outright wagers for me.
Billy's made a career at winning elevated events.
I know. Yeah.
Or they were named elevated events. So
right. He can do it, man. I mean, if you ask me one name,
You're not shocked. I will say, just like looking at the odds checker grid, you notice some wild discrepancies. DraftKings buying the Jason Day hype in at 40-1, while I'm seeing it as high as 75 over at FanDuel. Don't think I could even consider swallowing that 40. But, if maybe there are props off that 75, the way he's driving, the way his irons are right now, some of the best on tour. So if I could maybe take something off that 75 and find a prop I like or a matchup, it's great to see. And you mentioned Ricky Day. As we're talking, it feels like Justin Rose is about to win again. Rose gets the win, but it's good to see all these guys. I know Ricky's a little bit younger, but it's good to see all them playing well. I hope they could be consistent and do it more, go against this younger generation more often now.
All right, big elephant in the room, Jeffrey. Super Bowl happening right down the street, right after things finish up in Phoenix. So my number one question to you is this a market that you are willing to combine in any way, shape, or form, right? There are a ton of fun props at the Super Bowl. I am sure with the new DraftKings Sportsbook opening up at TPC Scottsdale and the Super Bowl happening right there down the road, there are going to be a ton of offerings. So are there any golf/football props that you have interest in dipping your toes in?
I haven't really seen those markets develop yet, Andy.
They'll come later in the week, though.
Yeah, I'm certain they will. I'm not the biggest prop player, to be perfectly honest. It's not. I don't know. I don't get like totally lost in it like a lot of people. If anything, I'll do the worst thing and I'll like just join a party. By party, I mean like what the gang of my buddies are on that we're watching. So nothing like a good group hug when the nice big bet hits.
Well, then maybe let's just go a little bit big picture. And before we get out of here, give me your pick. Who's winning the Super Bowl this year, Geoff? Eagles or Chiefs?
Well, if people don't like how I cap golf, they're certainly going to despise how I'm about to cap this football game, Andy. Nothing fancy about it. It's the one-off, so I'm sure it's a well-capped game. I am sadly a pained Chargers fan, and I'm just not betting on a division rival to win the Super Bowl. I like Mahomes enough that if they do win and Andy Reid, like they're such a likable group that I won't hate if they win per se, but I'm not like going to cheer for them. So I don't know, but Philly can be obnoxious, but hey, I'm with that. I'm with them. I'm with that wild gang, I guess, at Philly. Philly will have my money this weekend.
They're both obnoxious in their own way, right? Of course, you've got the Philly fan base, but then you've also got Jackson Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes that you have to turn around and root for yourself. So I understand the dilemma that we have on our hands. I am with the Chiefs. I just think that Mahomes is a generational talent. I am not super concerned about the ankle issues. Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, looks a little bit hurt himself in his own right. So I am rolling with the Chiefs. But on a Monday morning, Geoff, I will let you get out of here. It is a busy day for us. Like I said, we've got a bunch of developing markets. The AT&T Pebble Beach is finishing up as we speak. I'm sure more stuff will come out surrounding Phoenix as well as those markets develop. For me, I am Andy Lack. You can find me on Twitter at ADP Lack Sports. That is Geoffrey Fienberg. You can find him on Twitter at GFienberg17. And we will see you next time.